Well, we're back for the weekend well-being with Karen Ferguson from the Maven Club this week. Hello, Karen. Great to have you with us again.
Hi, Nathan. It goes fast, doesn't it, these weeks?
It does very fast, but great to have you with us. How is everything going at the Maven Club at the moment?
Yeah, it's such a privilege actually because I just love to get alongside people and help them to remember they're not alone and just to pull out the great stuff that's within them, and perhaps try to help them to have some focus on what is their next step, what's good for them, but mainly just to encourage them. There's a world full of people with brilliant ideas, but there is so much doubt and imposter syndrome that lingers. So being able to crush some of that is really helpful, and it's a real privilege to do.
Yes, absolutely. It's great to have you with us again. We've been looking at basically helping us to work out how we can work on our well-being, which is something we could so easy to neglect. We
Mhm.
talked about the importance of smiling. That was a challenge a couple of weeks ago. Last week, we talked about sort of meditating on something good, something helpful, something actually positive, rather than, I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in all the worries and stresses of life. It's good to talk about those things and to make sure you've got someone you can share those with, but we don't want to let them sort of fill our minds constantly because that really gets us down. So what's our focal point for this week?
Well, today's actually, it's probably going to feel like quite a big challenge, because today is about a 30-minute challenge. And across the weekend, trying to find 30 minutes might feel like, wow, that's actually quite hard to fit in. But bear with me and let me explain, and we'll go from there. So, a number of years ago, I was very privileged actually, and very overwhelmed. But I was asked, along with somebody else, to create a family program that would help people just to think about how they were going about family life. And one of the things that we felt was important to introduce was a section called My Time. And essentially, this came about because as we spent time with parents or carers, we found that they would often put their own well-being and themselves right to the bottom of the list. And especially if you've got young children, life can be quite busy and hectic, and trying to get any time to yourself can just feel utterly unachievable. So we prioritized within the program this little section called My Time, where it might even have been as simple as perhaps having a bath without children interrupting you. Maybe like 15 minutes to yourself with a book or something like that. Again, it was meant to be low cost, no cost. Something where people, if they really put their mind to it, they could achieve it. And so today's theme is kind of off the back of that, this 30-minute challenge to think about, what do you love doing? What's important to you? What helps you to unwind or relax or just to escape? Now, some of the things that we like doing perhaps are a bit too ambitious for us to fit in or a bit too expensive. So, I love to travel, absolutely love traveling. But that's not something that we can achieve easily and slot into a weekend. And we certainly can't do that without spending money. But what can you do and what do you love doing that you can achieve without necessarily having to spend any money? So the challenge really is to think about what you love, what helps you to unwind. And so for me, one of the things that I've recently started doing again, and perhaps it's a reflection on the fact that I'm getting a bit older, Nathan, but I've really enjoyed getting those kind of puzzle books. I had some surgery a couple of months ago, probably about 3 months ago now, and really had to stop and I had to rest. And I possibly dreaded this idea of not having very much that I could do. And so getting some of those puzzle books was a great way of just sort of occupying my mind in a way that it wasn't exhausting, but it gave me something to do when I was trying to recover and I wasn't really allowed to walk or do very much. And so I've kept that. I've kind of kept that going. And every so often you'll see me looking at a puzzle and trying to fill that in. And so it's a great, inexpensive way for me just to have that little bit of time out where I'm really not getting caught up with everything else. But making sure that I have that special my time where I'm just learning to look after me and relax a little bit and not rush around so much. And I think one of the things that we need to consider, and we spoke about it on the very first session, is just this sort of culture of busyness that we have. And so, whilst it may feel like, how on earth am I going to find half an hour to just do something that I like this weekend? Have you any idea, Karen, what I've got going on and the demands on me? I do appreciate that. Feels like a big challenge, but it's an opportunity to stand up to busyness and to also stand up to distractions, because I think sometimes we can actually find ourselves distracted by things. The phone's a great one, isn't it? Where you think you're going on to do something and then you get a little bit distracted. So I might be looking at the weather app, for example, but then something pops up, a notification, and you suddenly look at that. And before you know it, half an hour may have passed. So how do we stand up to busyness? How do we stand up to distractions? And how do we stand up to stress? Because sometimes when we don't take that time out to rest and look after ourselves, our stress levels are just going up and up and up. And it's a healthy time, I think, obviously, depending on someone's life and their job and their responsibilities. But there's sometimes it's a healthy thing to sort of think about going into the weekend and sort of ending a week well, and then thinking about leaving some of that stress behind. So by setting aside half an hour this weekend to do something that you just enjoy, it doesn't really matter if it's someone else's idea of enjoyment or not, but what is it that is something that will help you relax, help you switch off, help you to stand up to busyness, stand up to distractions, stand up to that stress, and give yourself half an hour of my time this weekend. So that is a big challenge this time, but I really look forward to hearing that people have managed to achieve that and they've done things that are good for them, that just give them that little bit of time out to themselves.
Mm. So true, so good. Thank you so much, Karen. I think getting half an hour of times, perhaps to do something we enjoy, might seem perhaps. I guess sometimes the trouble is we might think that sounds a bit selfish. We worry
Mm,
that we're taking that time out. Well, other people need me, or these all these things I need to do, and that busyness. And it can be really hard. Not just because it's still difficult to find time, but sometimes we worry actually. Well, is it okay to take that time?
mm.
But if we don't, we run the risk of becoming kind of useless to everyone because we'll be too tired or we're just under strain, and that prevents us from being able to just do everything we need to.
Yeah, absolutely, Nathan. I mean, that was the whole thinking behind the My Time section in this family skills program, because what we really recognized was this guilt that gets picked up by parents, that you just sort of feel like everybody else needs you, and that it would be selfish to sort of sit down with a cup of tea or watch that favorite soap or whatever it might be that it is for you. And this sense of selfishness and guilt was so dominant. And what we tried to do was encourage them that actually, when you're never looking after yourself, the chances are that you're then more likely to be irritable. You're more likely to kind of react to something. So you're actually looking after others by looking after yourself. So just taking that little bit of time to look after yourself, it does help you to kind of breathe again, perhaps to just reset those levels, and kind of makes you a nicer person to be around. So it's not selfish, it's actually quite selfless. You're looking after other people if you can take a little bit of time just to look after yourself.
Absolutely. And what you were saying about puzzle books, I do enjoy puzzle books quite a lot. I find it's a very useful way because I find myself I need something to do, something that takes a little bit of thought if I'm
Uh-huh.
going to relax. And that puzzle books, I love doing puzzle books.
Yeah. Oh, well, fantastic. Well, we're in the same gang then, Nathan.
Yeah, that and certain handheld ones. When you try and, for example, try and get a part off another part.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't
Yeah.
what
Now
forget what
you're
those
getting
called.
way too smart for me.
No, but yeah, it's absolutely true. We do need to find something that we can do, and if we don't, like you say, we are. There's a good chance we'll become irritable, and there's a good chance that we might not be able to, I guess, help others if we don't look after ourselves. There's it's important to put others first, and that's really good. But if we don't need to feel guilty about actually looking after our own needs. but sometimes and getting a bit of space to rest. So yeah, thank you so much for our challenge and our focus this week. I look forward to speaking again soon.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nathan. See you.